we are.
Yes, sir. All right. We are live. We had some technical difficulties, but the devil is a liar.
Yeah. From the beginning.
Yeah, let me turn my volume up so now people can hear me. All right, guys, you're tuning into Dope Girlz Pray live podcast. And tonight our guest is Apostle Richard Kent. We had some technical difficulties, but the devil is a liar. We are alive here and well in Jesus' name, and we plead the blood of Jesus over this podcast right here on tonight. All right, Apostle Kent, how you feeling today?
I'm doing well.
That's so good.
Well.
Yes, Lord.
Sorry about the delay, but we're certainly glad to be here.
All right. Oh, let me fix that. The audio. All right, so we're going to just dive right in. So our topic tonight, and sorry guys, I'm losing my voice, so I sound horrible, but God is good. I've been praying, staying up praying, so I'm losing my voice from praying. So I'm not upset about that. All right, so our topic tonight is a new sound. So Apostle, we're just going to go into the first question because I do believe that there is a word from the Lord on tonight, especially about this topic per se. So we're going to just dive right in with the first question. And the first question is, what is the new sound?
All right, so when we start talking about what is new versus what is old or middle age or anything else, we have to identify the original sound that God has created is a heavenly sound. Now we have to define heavenly because there are many heavens. And we understand that those heavens are consistent of realms or spheres of operation that are above us. We have the ionosphere, the mesosphere, the stratosphere. You have the exosphere, various realms of God. But the one realm where God dwells is called the north. Okay. The Bible makes that very clear in Isaiah 14. It says that he is, or that Satan himself wanted to attain a place in the north. The Psalms say in Psalm 75 that the promotion cometh not from the east, nor the west, nor the south, but the north is where God is. So therefore, we need to define what does heaven sound like, and what does that mean when we say sound? Do we equate that with a sound as far as instruments, a sound as far as worship? How do we identify that? So when you think about sound, you think about Revelation 4. Revelation 4:1 depicts that there is a sound of a trumpet. The sound of this trumpet then is articulating to John the Apostle, who has been suffering on the Isle of Patmos. He should have been died. He was boiled in oil. He has this revelation. There's a trumpet sound, which the trumpet is a sound to awaken. Mm-hmm. He hears the sound of awakening. The sound of awakening says to him, he then hears a voice behind that sound, and that sound says, come up. It's a personal invitation. Then it shifts from the identity of 7 churches to what now God is showing us of heaven. And the fact that there are angels there, they are worshiping, they're saying hallelujah, glory to God. So when you say a sound, I think we have to look into the realm of heaven. We, especially as apostles and prophets, which is an area I like to deal with the most. They are the ones who typically have the ability to go into those realms, to hang out with God and really depict and articulate exactly what the sound is. I think the sound, when we say sound, I think the sound that we're looking for is a sound that comes from heaven. The sound of heaven is based upon unity. It's unity. Everything in heaven is synchronized and syncopated. The worship is, the beasts, the 24 elders, the angels, the host of angels. Everything is in unity, and it is syncopated and it's synchronized. It's moving at a flow. So that everything that God does now, he does it on time, in sync, on beat. That's his character. So when we look and we see that in heaven, and then we turn around and we look at the book of Acts, and we understand that when a certain sound hit the earth, it opened up a portal that operative through sound. So sound is important.
Okay, hold on, because they don't hear us.
Oh, no.
All right. All right, so they should be able to hear us now.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Apostle. I'm sorry. All right, guys, so we're so sorry. We were experiencing some technical difficulties tonight. The enemy does not want this word to get out literally. And so I didn't even know until I just looked at my inbox. The Holy Spirit said, go look in your inbox. And somebody just sent me a message and said they couldn't hear anything. So once again, we're going to start over, y'all. I'm sorry. But we want you guys to be able to really hear and benefit from this on tonight. So once again, I'm your host, Kamisha H. And our guest speaker tonight is Apostle Richard Kent. And he's going to be basically speaking on our topic, a new sound. Y'all just missed some vital information that he was just basically speaking to us about what the sound was and what the sound from heaven is. So we're going to kind of just start over. Sorry, Apostle, but we got to benefit the people.
Okay, all right. So when we talk about sound, I want to qualify that connotation because I oftentimes hearing in this generation, in this era, what is the sound? I hear a sound, and there is an identity that comes with the sound. So if I could take that and theologically put it in context, when we look at the book of Revelation, we see in chapter 4 that after John's immediate suffering of what he's dealing with on the Isle of Patmos, he's dealing with the instruction regarding the churches, the 7 churches of Asia. And after that, all of a sudden, he hears a trumpet. There's a sound. Behind that sound is the voice of the Lord. And he speaks to John and says, come on up. There's a personal invitation, and we're going to identify and denote what sound is and how important it is to us in this hour. We have to understand that original sound, the genesis of it, what really the grassroots of sound comes from heaven.
Yeah.
And we have to get in tune and touch into where heaven is. That we're not trying to create an earthly sound. When we hear certain musicians and we hear strings and we hear certain things on an organ, these are sounds that originated in heaven. If the minstrel or the musician is a person who can tap into intercessory prayer and really move into the realms of the north, where God is, when I was saying that Psalm 75, that promotion cometh not from the east, nor the west, nor the south, but from the north, where God is. In Isaiah 14, it talks about how Satan said, I will ascend to the north. I was sent to the north, I was sent to the congregation that's in the north of the mountain. In other words, this is where God dwells. This is the original Eden before it was created for earth. So everything that we hear on earth is only a pattern or a duplication of what is already taking place in heaven. Earth is the confirmation of what God requires of us in heaven.
Wow.
If we can understand this principle, Ephesians 2 and 6 says that he has made, Christ had made us to sit with him in heavenly places. Now you got to look at the connotation of what he's saying. Wait a minute. I'm seated in heavenly places with him, and he, through his death, burial, and resurrection, has given me the seat by mercy and grace. So even though I don't deserve it, every day we have the innate ability in our DNA, our genetic code in the spirit realm. We can hear heaven. That's the sound. We can hear heaven. So it's not something that a musician or a person that's crafty can create something for the earth realm, because Satan can create sounds. He was a very creative being with pipes and things within him. So when certain vibrations connect, he would move, or he could create vibrations. So think about sound. Sound is created by what? Vibration. And everything about us in sound is chemical. See, so when we think about it, and we think about the molecular level and hearing the sound and understand we're spirit beings, then everything that we're hearing chemical is a vibration even to our bodies. So sound, we are sound.
Yeah.
When you really think about it,
yeah.
we are sound because we're seated in that heavenly place with God in the north. So spiritually, that's not natural, that's not soulish, because we are triune being. We are a spirit that has a soul that lives in a body. We're triune. So if that be the case, then we understand it's not our body that can do that. It's not our soul that can do it, but our spirit can.
Right.
And many people have said that their songs that they have written and everything, it was because they were in the presence of the Lord.
Wow.
And they weren't just talking about in a room in the presence of the Lord. They were speaking of my spirit ascending. Paul brings this into contextualization in 2 Corinthians, the 12th chapter. He said, I knew a man over 14 years ago. Whether in the body, I don't know. Whether out of the body, I don't know. God knows such a one who was caught up to the third heaven, paradise. Paradise is Eden. In other words, he was there in the face of God. Grace and mercy allowed him to ascend to a place where he would be in the face of God. Understand this now. I didn't say at his feet, and I didn't say at the throne. I'm talking about where he speaks, where he lives, where he makes judgments. That is his own personal place, and it's called the north. When we can gravitate the sound of heaven, we can bring that sound to the earth. Now, on the day of Pentecost, one of the main things that we understand about that day was there came a sound. So before the Holy Ghost entered into the earth realm, there was a sound.
Wow.
Sound always precedes a move of God.
Wow.
Before God moves, before God speaks, sound. John, before I tell you to come up, what did he hear? And behind me, I heard the sound of a trumpet.
Wow.
Then God said. So sound always precedes God. How do we know right now? I don't want to get ahead of myself, but how do we know a revival we're on the cusp of a revival. We're on the precipice of a revival because we can hear the sound.
Yeah.
And how do we know what the sound is? Because that sound comes, and once God speaks, it's denoted by a sound, and then that sound is qualified by how his people receive it, and we prepare.
Wow.
And so when the Holy Ghost came, that portal had opened, a doorway had opened. Same thing that John went through. When it says that John, and he went through a doorway, through it in the Greek, it means an opening. It means a portal. It takes you into another dimension, realm, sphere, takes you into a higher grade level of God. And this is one of the problems with the church. We're too low. We're too low to get the sound.
Yeah.
We're too low to hold the sound. And some people can get the sound, but they can't hold it. See, what's coming now is God is doing everything, even in the midst of this quarantine worldwide. God is trying to settle people so that when he gets ready to move, everybody will know how to move. That's his remnant now. That's not everybody. They'll know how to move by a sound.
Wow. And let me
always pursues his voice. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I just want to stop you right there because what you're saying is so vital, and I don't want to miss this. So when you said about the remnant of the people, a certain type of people, so the Lord had allowed me to release this word that he gave me last year in September. And he said, I'm releasing a new sound.
Yes.
He said, because preaching heaven and hell isn't working anymore. And what needs to be ministered to are the people's hearts, because that's what's sick. And so when you said that, it brought me to it. And so we know that revelation comes in parts. And so today I was reading in 2 Timothy, and literally the Lord gave me word to back up what I heard. Because Paul said, for the time will come when people will not put up with the sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a greater number of teachers to say, what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. And so when I read that today, literally, I said, wow, because this was proof to back up what I was saying, because that's what I want to kind of dive into now too, as far as the sound as it pertains to, the generation of people, because there is a new sound. There is a new sound.
No doubt. And that new, listen, okay, since we've gotten to that part, that new sound opens the portals. Okay? That opens up the earth realm to heaven. So those that are meticulous about knowing that sound and identifying that sound, those are the ones that will captivate the heart of God.
Wow.
That's going to be the remnant. Wow. Because they will know the sound. And it's not only just the sound in the music, it's not just the sound in the worship or in the praise, but there's a sound in the people. If we would listen, it's the sound in the people. One of the greatest deceptions I have been talking about lately is this, and this may be hard for a lot of people to swallow. The movement of today is going to be different than what we've ever seen, because it won't be a lot of older people.
Wow.
Because the older people have just been incensed with making change. And because they will not make change, they can't go in. Now, what is this year? This year is 2020.
Right.
20 is the number, the key number that God said, if the children are 20 years and under, they'll go into the promised land. So when you say 2020, you're getting twice as many, double the young people that are going to go in and possess this land.
Wow.
That leaves only 2 from millions that died over a 40-year period. God walked them slow like a dog until they died. Because they whined, they complained, they didn't want to fight, they worried about eating, worried about drinking, and they never came into agreement of following God.
Wow.
But now God has a new sound in his young people. And these young people are looking for the Calebs and the Joshuas of the generation. They do. They are not skipping over those who are ready that can lead them of a certain age. They just need the approval of them. And if people are going to sit back, it's just like the church today. They sitting back, they held positions for years. They didn't do anything with it. They didn't lead people into anything. They were just collecting checks and pensions.
Wow.
God said that day is over.
Wow.
And so this virus is coming and it's just cleaning out pulpits all over the world to say, no, I'm bringing in a new sound. This sound is going to denote my coming. I'm preparing a generation of young people with ancient mantles.
Wow.
They're young people, but they have ancient mantles. They're going to study and know the word meticulously. They're going to be grounded in doctrine.
Jesus.
They're going to be grounded in the truth. And they have a heart and a love for people. So I would say to people today, don't run past the young people and don't try to go without them, because it's going to be a necessity to have the older generation. This is what God wants. He wants an older generation and a younger generation amalgamated, working together. Now you say, where do you get that from? Genesis 22. When Abraham and Isaac were going up to Mount Moriah for this sacrifice, as they started walking, he said to the servants that were with him, he said, I and the lad will go on and we will worship. They knew nothing of a sacrifice, didn't know why Abraham was coming. And the whole principle of going to that mountain was that God said, I'm requiring the life of the very promise I gave you. You give me that promise, you give me your son, and we'll see with the rest. And so it's about an older generation, Abraham, the father of promise, coming into agreement with his son, who is at an age now of his bar mitzvah, around 12, 13 years old, and saying, yes, are you willing to go, son? So the older father, the younger son are coming together. 2 generations are coming together for a place called Jehovah Jireh.
Wow.
Which means God will provide. God will provide Abraham a son for you. Isaac, God will provide a father for you. that will give you the inheritance. And so it's important for us to understand the whole shift in mindset. The melody is not something that's natural, it's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And so what has been the comfort level of this older generation, this comfort level of carnality? I'm okay where I am. I'm okay doing what I'm doing. I'm not moving on to perfect myself and get better and raise the standard of holiness through the suffering of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I won't do that. So since they won't, like Israel, God let them die off to raise up a whole new generation of young people who are not just zealous. They're not just zealous, but they're powerful and they're called to a time such as this.
Wow.
So we really got to be careful of that. We got to really be careful of. I'm seeing it across the country, and of course, I'm at an age where I'm like a father. I mean, I'm born around these young people, and they calling me Papa. You know, and, but I mean, they love me, and it's Papa can't, and that's what I'm getting. I'm a father of the nations, but I'm also recognizing that as a father, I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
So I'm needing, look at us today. I don't know how old you are. You look pretty young. But I'm on this podcast, and you calling this pretty aged guy. You're on here young, and we're talking together.
Yeah.
We're meshing. Why? Because we got to bring two generations together.
This is true.
We got to bring two generations together. I got to learn the things that you all are thinking. I got to listen. That's the one thing I've been doing for the last 2-3 years. I need to listen. I need to listen to what you're saying. I heard the sound change. I heard the worship. I've been through 2 places before the quarantine came, and I went around the country, and I was treated like a father and loved and embraced, and I could lay hands on them and release them. And I mean, these are young prophets, 20, 21, 22. Where in my era, they would have said, that's too young, you got to wait. But I'm seeing God saying, the time is upon us.
Yeah.
What time? The time of his coming. And how do we know that? Because we hear it. It's a sound. We are built chemically to feel vibrations. Mm-hmm. And without that sound, without that vibration, without that activity on the inside, we don't know. We won't know where God is, who God is, how he's speaking, how he's moving. So it's imperative that and then let me say this for the young people. You can't get caught up in every sound.
Right.
And don't look for the sound to be natural.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
Music can be music, R&B, gospel, so and so. Don't look because I'm finding that in your generation, there's not a lot of original music or original singers,
mm-hmm.
or people that really carry weight. So I have a tendency, I got to look back a little bit further for that. But that's because people have become common they become common with this era and this time when it comes to producing sound. Yeah. So we're going to create something. If it's not there, let's make it. No, wait on it. Yeah. Wait on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Wait on the sound to come.
I agree. And it's so important because what you said about, the older generation learning the younger generation, because when the Lord gave me that word, he said, because we're living in a time where people, they don't care that they're going to hell. They say it, I don't care that I'm going to hell. And some people they don't think they're going to heaven. And so this is why he said to me that it's so important that we minister to the people's hearts, because that is what's sick. Because if you can start with a person's heart, literally, and you can penetrate their heart, then you can change their mind. You can help them change their mind. And so that is important. So what are some of the things that we will see with this new sound?
You're going to see a huge change in, I would say it's going to go from a hard thump in church to more strings, violins. I'm starting to see that. It's going to be more of a demonstration with that sound. Mm-hmm. I've been in some services where there has been the demonstration was so heavy, it was so light for me that I didn't even have to lay hands. I mean, it was just a waving of hands and the power of God was just falling. It was like that. It wasn't any lay hands on this one and prophesy to this one. God was literally speaking to people and prophesying to them through the sound.
Wow.
And so there's something called, we need to identify as a prophetic sound, because when that prophetic sound comes, God will minister through that music and that sound to deliver people.
Yeah.
Demons cannot function in certain vibrations and sounds. And so it's important, once that sound comes, a demon can't sit in that.
Wow.
It cannot.
Wow.
You're gonna see major services with where we're in the past. We had deliverance services, or you heard mass deliverance, and you heard people hollering out certain demons, and they were coming out and hollering and so on. So some of them people got them same demons when they got to the back of the door.
Wow.
Okay. This sound is going to come, and it's going to take weight off of people because it's going to be God. Heaven, literally, the band of heaven will literally come down with angels, and they will circumvent the room. And it will be so heavy until that which is in the north with God, what he hears, will come into the earth realm, and people will not be able to stand under that kind of power.
Mm-hmm.
When that sound comes, it will immediately bring people into salvation. It will bring them into deliverance. It will bring them freedom from demons. It will bring them freedom from their past. One of the things you were talking about right now, the hearts that are fleshly will get broken. Mm. He will do it himself. It will not be a language of correction or one who is standing over people telling them what they need to do. They will get so in tune and so, I'm feeling it as I'm talking, Jesus. And so involved and so in sync with the presence, the glory, the reputation, the celebrity, the power, the authority, the identity of who the Almighty God is, until the sound will break things off of people.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Wow. Wow. And
I to see something, if I can say this.
Go ahead.
We get ready to see something that I've been saying this for the last year. And God is going to strip, because he's doing it right now in this process of quarantine. Mm-hmm. God is going to strip men, their traditions and their ideas and their personalities. Wow. There's not going to be no personality, no size church is going to matter. Those that possess the presence of God, we're going to see mighty acts and mighty moves, miracles, signs and wonders, and it won't be a Kamisha thing. It will not be a Richard Kemp
That's
thing.
Right.
It's a God thing.
That's right. That's right.
That's what we're looking for.
That's right.
If anybody, I'm telling you, I'm going to say this prophetically now, and I'm standing on this because he told me, because God disciplined me for the last 2 years, from 2018 to 2020. He disciplined me. He said, if you ever take credit and allow people to follow you for the gifts that I've endowed you with, wow. I will take you out of here.
Wow.
I will not let anyone, this next go around,
Jesus,
have my glory.
Jesus.
And this is why, and I know this could upset a lot of people, because it could be people that they know, but I'm going to tell you the truth. A lot of people, now there are some preachers and our bishops that they reach their twilight in their time, and it's time for them to pass on, and they're going on with the Lord to get their reward. Some of them did not want to move. Mm-hmm. So God said, okay, man wants to create this COVID-19, this coronavirus, okay, and I'm going to let it pass over.
Wow.
But wherever the blood is, it's going to pass over. And some of those people were heady, they were high-minded, they were arrogant, they didn't want to give up their seat, they didn't want to let it go for nobody younger. They think that they don't, instead of training the young people to get them ready for what's that, they want to sit in that seat, they want to run it forever. What's up with you? Want to preach in a church for 50 years?
Yeah.
In one church. Move.
Yeah. And that's not being a good leader of, I look at it as like a tree and bearing fruits. You know, you don't want your tree to be naked. You want to be able to see, the fruit. So you will want somebody to be able to pick up the mantle, because God forbid one day you can't preach at church. Somebody at your church should be qualified to be able to preach. So that is important, that leaders do have to start training up people. Not saying that they don't, but more have to get into the habit of, training up the sheep, because sometimes people try to, hinder people, hold back people, or they don't want to feel like, my place is being taken, or they don't want to see people go. So sometimes they'll, hold people up, or hold the process up, but you can't hold God's process up, because when God say move, you're going to move.
Yeah.
And you got to move. Even if he got to take you out of there, you're going to move. So that isn't. Go ahead.
This is serious. This is, what we're doing tonight, this is kingdom work. I'm serious. I know you don't play and just bring anybody on your podcast. No. You're not playing with that. I know you're very serious. That's what I like about you. Because I know a person's spirit. And I'm not either. Nobody takes a Saturday to do that. This is really serious. Yeah. So it's not that we're taking anything away from anybody. I'm going to say it again and again and again. Don't hold back the young people. Work with them. Yeah. Embrace them. Because their gifts are there and they're solid. If there are areas within them they're broken in their character, let's repair them. Yes. Let's fix them. But don't kill them. Jesus. That's what I said to people. Don't kill my babies. Wow. Because I'm gonna come for you. Wow. Don't do that. Because anybody I've been in ministry 41 years, preaching. So now I'm saying I'm at that point now. I do what I do, but I like to sit in my chair more and do what I'm doing with you right now and spread wisdom and then go into these churches, man, and ignite these kids and get them on fire. And I'm out there, they dancing and I'm dancing with them. And we've got a unity, but that's a rarity. Yeah. That's a rarity with me because most of them will say, Pop, ain't nobody else, they ain't like that. Nobody else is embracing us. They don't push us. When they're singing and I'm sitting on the side, I'm worshiping until I'm in the floor. Yeah. They're laying in the floor, I'm in the floor. I'm with them. They're interceding, I'm walking and praying. Because I want the presence of God. Mm-hmm. I'm telling them, I'm not just coming because I want to preach. I want God. I feel God. Yeah. I want that sound. Mm-hmm. I want that sound because that sound is going to open those portals. And when those portals open, my God, the fire is coming. Come on. The wind is coming. Come on. There's going to be a move cloven tongues. That means it's a change and a shift in dialect. And people are going to be people that couldn't understand before and didn't know before. They're going to be able to hear it because we're going to speak with other tongues, not just languages literally. But Paul said in 1 Corinthians 13, he said, I speak with the tongues of men and angels. Yeah. Do you know your angel? Do you know your angels? Do you know your hosts? Mm-hmm. Do you know who's around you? Do you know who's been protecting you? Do you know who's been governing you and keeping you all this time? That's angelic. You got to release. Your mouth has a sound. If your mouth releases your angels, they'll come and help you worship. Yeah. The angels will come and help you worship. And Apostle, is so true because what you're saying, the Lord had led me to basically do the watchman prayer. Now, I'm not a person I used to be even afraid to pray out loud because if anybody knows my history, even though I grew up in the church, when I turned 19, I went to Islam for 13 years. And, we wasn't even really praying out loud or even allowed to do a lot of things. And so when I came back to Christ, that was something that even though the one thing I will say, the Lord always allowed me to have a prayer life with him. I always had a relationship, even though, I went another way, even though it was for a reason. But that's another podcast for another day. But it was so weird because in the beginning, I was so afraid to pray out loud because I wasn't used to praying out loud. And so as the years went on, the Lord was just training me with just the right things to say, and I was being a stickler. And it's not in a bad way, but I was learning the order of prayer, the order of prayer. And so now God has moved me to a place where he's okay, I want you to call for a prayer. So I'm God, are you serious? I'm not even a prayer person. Are you serious? The Lord said, there's something that you have. You know how to wait on me. You know how to really call my presence. You know how to worship. And so with the watchman prayer, what we're doing, because the Lord has said to me, even, a lot of people don't stay up at night to pray. And I know a lot of people, and I want to say it now, probably looking well, why 12 a.m.? Because at 12 a.m. from 12 to 3, that's when the biggest demons are being sent out. And there's so many things you can do in the realm of the spirit, break the witchcraft and paralyze the witch, in the realm of the spirit at that time. And so the Lord has been calling me for the last couple months to pray, that late. And so as I became consistent, Yes.
Not a thing of, because I did it one day and then all of a sudden, let's bring people on. No, I was consistent with that myself. And the Lord said, I want you to do this. And I was like, God, are you sure? And so he said, yes, I want you to do this because I want you to be able to help the people to learn how to wait. And literally, I will say honestly that we have experienced that sound. Like me personally, and Paul said we can boast in Christ. I'm not boasting, but just in general, I know what it feels like, and so I want so much for other people because there has been people that have been coming to me like, it was weird. And the Lord was preparing me and I didn't even know it because they was coming and saying, can we just worship with you? And I'm like, how do they know I'm even praying, this time of night? And so, of course, I wasn't turning people away. And then when the Lord, let me to do it, I said, okay, I see, what you were trying to do. You were leading me up to showing me, this was about to happen, and it's not even a prayer of so much words because sometimes we talk too much. We don't wait to listen. We don't wait to listen to God's response. We'll just pray. Oh, Jesus, 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 and then we get up and then we go home and God say, hold on, wait, I didn't give you the answer. I didn't say, what you wanted to hear. And so that's what we really do with that prayer. We just wait, we press, we push. There are times that we get higher, but we're going deeper. Our people, are coming out really saying, I felt the presence of God because that's what we want. Because I'm tired. I'm going to speak for myself. I'm tired of going, to churches and I'm just leaving with nothing. I'm leaving empty handed. And I came there maybe with, a spirit of depression, even though God, I never suffered with that, but maybe I was sad one day, and I wasn't uplifted. Not saying that the music and stuff, but there is a sound. There is a sound. And so I was going to ask, is the sound, is that something we're experiencing now in churches? Like, do you believe the sound is happening?
This is what I believe right now. This is how I perceive it. And I'll put it into a biblical context to back it. I believe that God has shut up the heavens
Jesus.
At this point. I believe that the virus is in the earth, but the heavens are shut. But I believe that there are those who know how to manipulate structures in heavenly places that are not afraid to do it and seek it, that are able to break through and get answers and be able to return with those answers. But I see the earth is being shut up because the only sound, if you really listen for it right now, the only sound that's really in the earth is fear, anxiety, and panic.
This is true.
And that sound is coming. Watch this now. That sound is coming through what vehicle? The TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a television. To tell vision.
Wow.
The TV tells you what the vision is. But that TV is not telling us what God is saying. Mm-hmm. But there's a vision, but it's a vision of fear, anxiety, and panic. And when you look at the earth realm and you hear the sound, everything is fear, anxiety, and panic, and worry, and what's next, and I want to be normal again. There is no normal again.
Yeah.
Because God is in control. There won't be a normal again. So that I believe that there are people there, the sound in the earth, it's only a few that can grasp that can penetrate that. You said that as we were praying, this is what you said. You said, as we were praying, we ascended and we went up. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's what I'm talking about, right? And when you go up, why? Because God invested in you to say, seek me until you hear it, until you see it. Don't give me words. Don't come to me and tell me what you think and pray about your mother and your cousin. I just need you to come before me. And as you start praying in language, and then language becomes languages, it pushes you out of the atmosphere of the earth and into those realms where God is. And we're able to hear and get information, intel, data. We're able to tap into the secrets of God. Mm-hmm. His servants, the prophets, yet the secrets of God. Daniel was able to reside in the realms of Babylon, a foreign place, because he knew by the wisdom of God the secrets of the heart of Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, Darius, Cyrus. He knew the hearts of the king because he stayed grounded and close to God. So it's important. No, it's not a lot that we can't hear much now because nobody's in church.
Yeah.
So when we say, what does the sound like? I think that God is positioning those of us who are in the remnant for the sound that he's going to create. And for those of us that can press into and really grasp that sound and comprehend it, because I mean, the other night I was going to bed, and as I was going to bed, I promise you I heard angels sing.
Wow.
And it was a sound that I hadn't heard in years, and it was so peaceful, and I could hear messages. And I have a diary here, and I begin to write, and he said, now write, and write, and write. And I was really understanding what these prophets and Paul went through in these moments. Really, Paul was trying to write to the Ephesians and tell them, watch these heavenly realms and these places. He said in Ephesians 1:20, he said, you're far above principalities and powers, dominion and might, and anything that's named in this world and in the world to come. See, we're looking for another world. It's world.
Yeah.
It's worlds that, man, oh my God. It's worlds to come that God wants to take us into. So I believe that there's a sound. I hear it. I'm watching certain individuals. They're keen, they're catching into it, and I'm hearing what it is. Then I'm watchful of this too. Now watch the sons of Belial and watch the sons of Baal and the prophets of Asherah, because they want to duplicate everything that's legitimate.
Wow.
They want to duplicate the sound, but there's no weight in it.
Jesus.
I wanted the sound that's going to move me in the glory.
Yeah.
I wanted this sound. I can go up, but remember, wait a minute, but there's more realms than the north. You have the right to go to the north, but there are other realms that are beneath that. I mean, you can get to the astral plane, and the astral plane is where the witches travel.
Wow.
Yeah. 3 to 6 o'clock in the morning, the witches travel in that plane, and that's where you have astral projection, and you have those different type of movements and things like that. Witches, people don't understand that. Witches and brooms, and they call it the silver line in the spirit.
Jesus.
That's why when we pray against that, we cut
the silver cord. Yeah.
And we command them to come out of their body and be left in the
Jesus.
And their body are dropped dead. I know a witch may be listening to me now. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. So we have to understand, and that's where God is taking you. And that's what you're feeling. That the Lord gave you a vision. Watchman's prayer. Daughter, go into watchman's prayer. See, it's these you all that are coming on that. God is talking to you all. He's talking to you. He's raising you all. It won't be a thing that you're looking for this and that. You'll be looking for spiritual parents to confirm, activate, release, push, cover, protect, seal the inheritance. But no longer just, I'm looking for somebody to give me encouragement and pat my back. Y'all go.
Yeah.
And I love it because I'm going with you.
Yeah.
You ain't going higher than me. I'm going to be, you get there, you going to say, there's a posse. He's sitting in this chair. Y'all ain't going, I keep telling you, y'all ain't going without me. No, I see it, really. I do. I see it so clearly. It's permeating my spirit.
Jesus.
And it becomes a conversation that I engage with somebody throughout the day. There are so many people I've dismissed out of my life because they're too low.
Wow. Yeah.
If you don't believe that God can move higher, I don't want to be bothered. I know that God can rapture us. Yeah. That word rapture, before it was actually the connotation of the church being raptured. If you read Acts, the 8th chapter, when Philip was witnessing to the eunuch from Ethiopia, and when he baptized him and went out to the water, the Bible said that he lifted up and he was caught away, and he ended up in a city called Azotus that was about 25 to 30 miles away. How could he have done that? That was a rapture. Right. So there are elements of rapture in dimensions that we can go through today. We can experience to know God. Some people don't want to know God till they raptured up and meet him. Come on. I want to know him so that when the rapture comes, I'm saying, I already know what that's like. Yep. Show me something else, Daddy. Show me Abba, Father, Daddy. Show me what else you got other than what you showed me when I was on earth. Yeah. Yeah. And if a witch can travel, They got it from us.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say to people, you may think that's crazy, but you better put on your traveling shoes. And I don't mean just naturally. You better put on your traveling shoes and start moving into greater dimensions, because we gotta rule those realms so that those powers can't continue to control nations.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happening.
Yeah, because I'm gonna speak on that part when you said the witch traveling, because
Yes.
I have a friend and we were talking, and he's from I forgot like what part of Africa, and he was saying his sister got married, and there was a woman that basically wanted to marry her husband, and she put magic on the husband, and they moved to America, and the witch was astrojected, and she was coming to their house in America, literally in the room, and the girl said that she was fighting the witch literally like in the middle of the night, because she would come and she was trying to kill her. And so people think this stuff is not real, and it leads me to the next question. So many people may call this new sound and everything radical. Why is that?
Well, because they're not used to it, and again, maybe some of them not old. Some people don't want to change.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's going to take a transformation in our nature to go into the next level. Every time we go through a shift, there is something in your being that changes forever.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like there are growth stages naturally, there are growth stages spiritually, there are growth stages soulishly. And so there are certain things that will happen where people, primarily in this hour, they don't want to change.
This is true.
And so no, they don't think they feel it. That's a little bit too much, and the witch is traveling and no fighting. Let me tell you a story real quick. Let me go back to that real quick. This is a true story.
Mm-hmm.
In Africa, in Zimbabwe, there was a man. He married his wife. The woman who, it was almost a similar thing. The woman who was mad that she couldn't marry the man put a hex from a witch doctor,
Jesus,
that put this hex on this woman so bad till what she did was, when the baby was born, it was born with a sheet around his neck.
Wow.
The people that don't believe that, that's your problem. But see, the reason why people in Africa can grasp it is because in the East is where the sun rises.
Mm-hmm.
So they understand the nature of God, because the Son of God has arisen with healing in his wings,
mm-hmm.
Malachi 4. They understand how God arises and the realms of the spirit. And so those who want to be a negative, they try to tap into that and move by that. So this is normal. It's normal to take your children
mm-hmm.
and sacrifice them to Molech or Kamash. Over here, you kill children, or children are sexually trafficked. Over there, they walk to portals, literally portals, and throw their children into and offer them to God.
Mm-hmm.
So here again, that way of thinking, it sounds that's a little bit edgy. That's a little bit too far. Okay, so those people that believe that way, they're not going but so far spiritually.
Yeah. This is true.
Because if you don't understand the greatness of what God can do, you'll never understand the power that Satan moves in.
Yeah, and the Bible says it, and we're not ignorant of the enemy's devices. But some people, they don't want to study and learn. And my thing is, not my thing, but what the Lord is having me doing in this season is learning my opponent. Learning what I'm up against. And he's had me, really studying scriptures about warfare. So when I pray, I'm not just using my words, but I'm moving the enemy with the word of the Lord, because the enemy's not moved by us. He don't care what we say. We could be, oh, Father, and da-da-da. He doesn't understand that. It's the word of the Lord that he understands. And so it is a serious thing, even though some people look at it, oh, you're just being spooky, or you're being too deep. And I'll just say, you're not deep enough, because this stuff is happening. And forget, me coming into Christianity. I've experienced this even as a Muslim. I lived in Egypt from 2006 to I think 2008. I seen it firsthand. I seen it firsthand, literally. Stuff that went on, and and in Islam, I will say this, because it was a religion based off of knowledge, they made us really learn what to look for. Like you had to, you would know, you could spot a soothsayer. on the spot, and who practiced witchcraft on the spot, and what questions they would ask, because they ask certain questions, and so the protective measures that, they used to make us take, I brought that over into Christianity. And I always say Islam made me a better Christian, because those things, that knowledge-based things, I'm not going to say everything, because there's a lot of witchcraft behind that religion too, and I'm going to say it. But the knowledge-based things, that goes according to the Bible, because it's not really a difference so much with the Quran and the Bible, the scriptures, because it's really the Old Testament, not the New Testament, but the Old Testament. A lot of the things that I learned, I brought over, and it made, and God, I thank you, because literally the Lord did that for a reason, for such a time as this, so that I could be more alert. That's what I just heard him say, so that I could be more alert, so that I would know what I'm up against, because we've been living in the time. Let's just say this, witchcraft has been practiced, since the times of old, but people just don't pay attention, and they wonder why so many cycles happen, different things happen in their lives, because people are not spending time, because you don't need a prophet to come along and say, this, the Lord will tell you. You spend time in the presence of the Lord long enough, he'll tell you. You'll see the darts, you'll see the snakes, you'll see all of that, if you spend that time. But we're in a time where people don't want to press. And that's what I'm really trying to do, is just to encourage, the people. It's not that I think I'm anything. I'm nobody. I'm the dirt on the bottom of somebody's shoe. But I just have a heart that I want good for people. And I just want more for myself, more of God. And I just want to but I want to do that for other people as well. And because I know the Father knows this about me, I think this is why he's now putting this stuff, on my plate. Because I never wanted to do stuff like this, even though people might say, oh, but you, the spotlight. No, I was never one of those people. I like to be in the back. I like to prophesy in the back. I never wanted to do, even this right here it's scary every time that I come on live.
I understand.
It's scary every time I come on live, because it's so much, that you have to go through. But I just thank God for that, because he said in his word, we're not ignorant of the enemy's devices. So even with the warfare that we had to go through just to come on here today, we know, that it was something. The enemy knew that it was something in what we were going to talk about, especially what you were going to present, from the Father, because he didn't want it to happen. He didn't want it to happen. He didn't. So we're going to get to the last question, and we're going to end, because we don't want to tire out the people. But what are some of the things that we can do as believers to cross over to this new sound? What are some things that can help us?
Okay, number one. The one thing that can put us in position for that is called communication. Communication with God comes from prophetics. And when I say that, I'm saying in order to understand and know what the heartbeat of God is, we're going to have to communicate. Mm-hmm. And so it starts like this. The first level of it is it's 5 levels. The first level of it is ministering to God alone. That's number one. That means when you say minister to God, that's serving him. This is what Samuel did. Some of your people can look at the Bible and follow this. In 1 Samuel 1, Samuel is a baby. He's in the temple with Eli, and he's serving the Lord. There's something that he serves in. It's called an ephod. Mm. The ephod is the base apparel of a prophet. Now, this, before you get to intercession, priesthood, or anything else, ephod is the beginning process of your servanthood. That means I'm serving God. That's number one. Number two, through serving God, we learn to communicate with him. You said something powerful, and that was awesome. When you said, sometimes we're talking so much and we can't hear what he's saying. We spent 2 hours and we didn't hear what he was saying. The key to anyone communicating is waiting, reading, and listening. Read and then wait to hear what he's saying.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, based on the level, myself, I'll get up in the morning, and before I open up the word or anything, I sit in that place he takes me to in the house, and I wait for him to come.
Yeah.
I wait for him to come. That's communication. The third level is through that is ministering in your ministry to the Lord, communication. That's your intercessory. That's when you learn to pray. Then the next thing is you learn how to hear God. Mm-hmm. You communicate. You learn how to hear God. After you hear God, you'll be able to listen and know what he shows you. So you see him. And the last thing is, when he trusts you and you're prepared, you put on the full embodiment of everything that is possessed in you through the priesthood and then your prophetic mantle.
Wow.
You speak for God.
Jesus.
So number one, all of that is in 1 Samuel 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
First, I'm going to minister to the Lord. Number two, I'm communicating. I'm going to communicate. What did Eli say? Eli said, what are you hearing? He heard a voice. He went to Eli. Why? Because he was trained by a man.
Mm-hmm.
So the feature that God has set, there's a training of a man. There's two voices that prophets have to learn. The voice of a man or a woman who trains them, and then the voice of God. When they get the voice of the leader will then know when they're ready to tell them, now don't come to me no more. Go to God.
Wow, Jesus. That was good, Apostle.
Don't come to me no more. Don't lean on me. I'm not your God. I came to direct you to bring you to him.
Wow.
So there's key voices. And sometimes when we're talking about this, the elder, they don't know how to adjust when that time is over. You got to let them go. You got to let them go and get God. It's not that they don't want you. Matter of fact, if you train them right, when they grow, they'll come back.
Come on. Come on.
They'll honor
Jesus.
you, and they'll respect you, and they'll appreciate you for who you are. So once you do that, you communicate. Then through communication, we learn how to hear God.
Mm-hmm.
After we hear God, God teaches us. We don't learn to see in the spirit first. We learn to hear. Even if it's a seer learns to hear first. Now, they don't speak as much, but they see. They have insight, but they're going to learn to see. So when we learn how to get to that point where it's we minister to God, we start learning him, we start communicating through prayer and intercession, then we start hearing him, then he starts showing us things that we've heard, we see it, and then the last thing is we speak it. The full regalia is prophet, priest, judge.
Wow.
I'm sorry, priest, prophet, judge.
Right.
priest, prophet, judge.
Wow.
The priest is the intercessor. The prophet is the main chief communicator of the people. And the apostle or the judge is the apostolic voice or an apostle that has the principle of governing, where the mantle is. They govern regions and territory. Bethel, Mizpah, and the surrounding regions.
Wow.
So if we can get that and be comfortable with it, and in your generation, I don't want y'all to be afraid no more.
Yeah.
I want you to leap out there. I see it in you. I want you to leap out there, and I want you to go. I don't want you to ever say ever again that you ain't nothing but shoe on gum. No, girl. Don't you ever say nothing like that again. You are big. You are marvelous. You are marvelously and wondrously made. You are the handiwork of God, the workmanship of God. What God has had in Satan, the workmanship and the pipes and the things that he put inside of him, that workmanship, when he fell, it got corrupted. So the sound got corrupted.
Wow.
In order to raise up a new sound, he had to raise up something called a church, an ecclesia, a called out people, a sanctified people, a set aside people. And those people, we all go through processes of cleansing and meeting the right standard and stages of God. But he cleaned us up.
Yeah.
He cleaned us up. So we ready to go do what we have to do. We got to go ahead and face today and go ahead with it, because every experience you've ever had is all to drive you to this moment, to prepare you for that.
Yeah.
So there's never any shame. There's never any shame. We cannot function in the power of his grace like he has graced us to. It's not just grace, it's great grace. And it requires us to say, more grace. I need more grace.
Yeah.
More grace.
Yeah.
More of him. I want more. Daddy, I want more revelation, more mystery. I want more power, more glory, more might. I hear it in this generation. They are hungry. Yeah. And they are thirsty. You're doing a great job.
To God be the glory. To God be the glory.
Thank God for you.
Thank you. And so this was not, the Lord just downloaded this question into me. It's not really so much a question, it's more so much of advice, because I know a lot of people that's listening and people that's going to listen to it. What would your advice be to the cave prophets? Some words of encouragement, people that's afraid to step out and to walk into who God called them to be?
Well, the first thing is, when we say cave prophets, you have to identify that, because you went in the cave because of your own volition, because you did not identify who you were, as great as you are. So the first thing you have to identify is, even in a cave, there's a sound. First Kings, the 19th chapter. What's the sound? Elijah was looking for thunder. He was looking for earthquake. He was looking for lightning to flash. And was in none of those. And then all of a sudden, a still small voice began to say, Elijah, why are you here? Well, Lord, it's no other prophets. I'm the only one here, which coincidentally blows my mind when I read that text, because he says that I'm the only one here. But in chapter 18, when he was getting ready to conquer and destroy and dismantle the 400 prophets of Baal and the 400, but actually it was 1,200 prophets of Asherah, of Jezebel's orgy, you said I was the only prophet. I am the only one that's coming against all of you. So sometimes the very thing that drives us in a cave is our own inability to recognize in our tiredness, in our weariness, who we really were all along. And so we have to understand, even in the cave, you still have your mantle. You have to listen for that still small voice inside. And it will tell you, come out the cave. And when he tells you to come out the cave, here's what he's going to do, because the text shows it. He says, I want you to do something. You're going to go anoint Hazael of Assyria. You're going to go anoint Jehu for Israel. And he said, and then I want you to make room for Elijah. In other words, there's a place in you that's already carrying him to mantle him. So what you've done to all the prophets that are listening to me, that have been lonely, that have been depressed, that have been heavy, that folks have been giving you a hard time, I'm saying to you today, you now have to come out of that expectation and come into a new expectation. You're not going to die. You're not going to kill yourself. You're going to come out and you're going to live, but you're going to look for the prophetic company, and you're going to look for more people to anoint that can help you. Look for the people that can get around you, that can help you. Listen for the sound. There's a voice. You can hear it. You can see it. I was at a service some time ago in the Caribbean, and I was sitting in the office, and I wrote this little small book 3 or 4 years ago. It's called Living in the God Dimension. I didn't even really know all of it that I was putting together. I did something. One young lady that was working for me, she literally wrote the book. She said, I'm tired of waiting for you. She wrote the book, she put it together, she said, now edit it and read it. Do you like it? I'm sending it to a publisher. This don't make no sense. So we put the book out. I don't even think I did that well with it, because I'm writing the second part of it now as we speak. And in that particular one, I took the book and I was giving it to people, and I was talking about an excerpt in the book. And when I was talking about it, this mother was sitting in the corner, and she saw me, and when I said, and so, so people don't understand that sometimes when you lay down and you sleep, you can travel like that. She looked up and looked at me and said, She was the only one in the room.
Wow.
And I didn't say nothing to offend anybody. She was the only one in the room. She said, She said, yeah, I don't know. Some of you are young, but she said, Mother Estelle Boyd used to do that.
Wow.
And that's how she would heal people, because she would put the towels around her body, and she would go out, and when she would go out and be with God, and when she come back, that healing virtue of God, so much God would come into her. So when she would lay hands on people, they would just immediately get healed like that. So it's you gotta look for those. They're out there. It's hard. It's discouraging. I know it is. It's discouraging, but they're out there. And some of them are charlatans. And you got to be careful. Don't grab everybody and don't take a hold of everybody. But you got to build it in a slow process. And that's how you come out the cave. That's how the cave is only a place that we put our own self in because we lost our self-confidence.
Wow.
That's all.
Wow.
And then once we get in there and we hear that still smoke, stop looking for the thunder and the rain and everything and the fire that fell on Mount Carmel. You don't look for that no more. Get quiet. That's why God's doing this whole quarantine thing. Get quiet.
Yeah.
And let me talk to you. Because one thing about God, he don't holler. I've known him pretty good a long time. And ever since I was a child to where I am now, he's never hollered at me.
Wow.
He's always spoken to me and said, he told me 2 years ago, he said, listen to me. He said, son, if you don't deal with that, and if you don't work on that aspect of your persona, I'm not going to be able to take you where I want to take you.
Wow.
And I said, yes, Daddy. That was 2018 of August.
Wow.
And he was breaking me from 2018 to 20. So I could be on your podcast.
Wow.
That's what he was doing.
To God be the glory. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So it's just you're only there because you lost your confidence. Get your confidence back and breathe. You gotta breathe. Sometimes God wants to take us higher. I've been teaching my apostles and my prophets lessons in realms, and I'm teaching them as you ascend. Sometimes your ears will begin to hurt physically, and your nose will begin, your sinuses and things like that will begin to leak and all of that, because if you're having a hard time breathing, if you wake up like you're panicking, it's because literally you're ascending higher and you're going up so in dimensions. You have to teach your spirit and teach your body how to ascend to that, because your spirit is ready to go, but the body can't go where the spirit goes. So once you teach yourself how to be comfortable with it and flow with it, you'll go with it, and then you can breathe, and then you'll get into the heights of where God is and breathe with him. I don't believe I don't believe that God has us. I know people say it and it's comfortable for them to say, I was at his feet. I was laying at the feet. And I would hear people say that when I was young. I used to always say, I was at the feet of Jesus. And the Lord said to me, why would you be at the feet of me? He said, do you not know when I called John up to heaven and I allowed him to be there when the seals of tragedy on the earth would be opened up? He said, do you know why I was so intimate with John through that? He said, because John was the one in St. John, the 20th chapter, that laid in my breast.
Wow.
He laid on my chest. He said, if he laid on my chest in the earth realm, why would I bring him to heaven through his suffering and the travail of his pain and give him a scene of my feet? He said, no. He sits on my lap and he wraps his arm around to feel the pulse of my neck and my heart. People got to tap in and know it's so much more. And I want you all to get this now, because I told one of my daughters yesterday, let me tell you, back when I was in my 20s, I was holding back, because you know what? The bishops was, when I was telling them things like this, they were telling me, something wrong with that boy. You're going a little bit too far. You can't put you in the bishopric like that. You off. There's something wrong with him.
Wow.
He's out of it. Then I would find these old mothers that was tapping in intercession, because the bishops wasn't praying. Wow. But it wasn't in intercession. The mothers was praying for them. I began to get around the mothers and transport and teleport.
Wow.
Because they knew how to do it.
Yeah.
They knew how to do it.
Wow.
It's more. It's like, I'm saying, ask God for more. I ask God, please, that this is going to take 30 years. He said he's going to take 30 years off my life. These young kids be praying for me. Your generation, they be like, Pop, God going to take 30 years off your life. I'm like, okay, that's 30 years old. That's not. I support you with that. Okay, all right. That's it. Thank you, Lord. 30. Jesus, thank you, Lord. Because there's so much time I walked in fear. I walked in anxiety. I was under panic. I went to see psychologists and psychiatrists thinking I was off my rocker, only to get here and understand, no, I'm clear. And then I'm watching now the beauty of this generation, especially in Houston, and what's going on in the Church of the Nation in Houston. Oh my God, these young people, oh my God. They are just embracing God. And if you talk to them and you say, we can go to another room, come on, take us, Pop. Teach us there. That's what we find them. They're out there. Find them, they're out there.
Wow. Yeah, I believe God. And I've experienced it, especially, with the church that I go to now. I thank God for bringing me there, because it was like when the Lord started to show me different things about myself, and he said, it's time for you to grow. I know people really didn't kind of understand it, because they was like, well, you're not really doing nothing right now. But even though I wasn't doing anything right now, I'm hearing the Lord's voice, and he's showing me, who I am, and where I'm going. And so when you said that you have to get around those type of people, it's so true, because if not, you'll get bored. You'll get bored. And it's nothing personal. Not saying that, you're not having church or anything, but it's like when you want so much more of God. And I'm a firm believer that starts at home. That's not just when you get into the building, that's at home. And so when you're doing stuff at home and you get to a place where, it's happening, but it's not happening, sometimes you do get bored. You be like, okay, I want a little bit more. And so where I'm at now, I thank God, because it's like from the day that I went, the presence of the Lord was there. It stays there. It resides there. And the angels literally are encamped. There is always a move, like a supernatural move. When somebody said to me one time, but everybody's not going to operate like that. And it's not about operation. But the thing is, I just believe you shouldn't go somewhere and leave out empty-handed. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that each person has to operate like that, but just the atmosphere, we all should be experiencing God on another level. It shouldn't just be the same, because if we're going to church and we still struggling with the same demons, let's start there first. You got the same demons. You can't even get past that part. How you think you're going to move up with God?
That's what I'm saying.
We've been suffering with perversion or homosexuality for 20 years, and we try to figure out how come we can't move up and we can't get to the different glory realms. And there's so many different realms, in the spirit, and we still at the music realm, which is the lowest realm. We're not going nowhere. We still hand clapping every Sunday. We're wondering why we're still broken. It's so many different levels to God, and everybody is not going to experience that, and I've become content. I'm not no advocate like, oh, experience, or whatever. But at the end of the day, I just know I want so much more, from the Lord, and I'm just excited about everything that God's doing. We definitely have to bring you back on here, because there's so many other nuggets that I know that you can drop, on us, because at the end of the day, we find so much wisdom from the older generation, whether people want to believe it or not, because some people are too radical to the point they think that they can't listen to the older generations. They think that they kind of know it all. When Paul said it, with the youth, this is in 2 Timothy, this is where they deceive themselves, with their gifts. We got to be careful, because the Lord may give you a gift, but at the end of the day, you still find those batons from the older generation, because they preceded us. And so it is so important that we do bridge that gap and we come together, and the older generation had to be okay with doing that, because, they had to train up the next people.
That's right.
They had to, because you got to look at it that even if it was your child, you will be training up your child or want somebody else to train up your child. So you got to do the same thing. You got to train up, somebody else's child, because, at the end of the day, when you leave, somebody has to pick up the mantle. Somebody has, and if you have the heart of the Father, and I truly believe this, then you will want that for the people. You will want that for the people. But the problem is we're living in a time, where people don't have the heart of the Father. And I do believe that we're in 2 Thessalonians, where Paul said, he said, people are saying about the end times. He said at that time, he said, but don't be deceived. The end time won't come until lawlessness is on the earth, where people will set themselves up in the temple as God. And a lot of leaders have done this today. A lot of people have done this. And it's this Jezebel spirit that people are operating into, and so. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, I am, because I ain't patty caking with the devil, and it's nothing personal to people, but I'm going to say something about the spirit, because sometimes some people mistake that. They think, because if you say something, you're trying to be, not even say something, because sometimes you don't even have to say something. But if you address the spirit, people take it personal because they think you're addressing a person. And no, you're addressing the spirit. But because you're offended, because we're saying expose every hidden thing, and it's exposed. So that's why you're offended, because that's what's operating behind you. So what's operating behind you is what's offended. And so people have to understand it's not an attack on the person, but we are to attack the spirit, because the Bible says that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. And we wrestle against higher principalities. So that's what we're, fighting against. Is not the person. Because, some people, they have the audacity, and I'm going to say it because it's the spirit behind it, about, people are prophesying with the Old Testament. But that's the time that we're living in. That's the time that we're living in. And if you're really reading your word and staying in your word, you will see. And if you know prophetic order, you will know. Sometimes the Lord will withhold certain things that were supposed to be for another generation. And he'll save it for a generation that don't want to listen to prophets. And this is the time that we're living in. And that's prophetic order. But this is the black and white that people, they don't get. And that's why he said, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And so we have to, outside of the Bible, we have to read. And learn these orders and stay in the word, because the word itself is prophetic. It is. You're going to get everything you need. I just said it. The Lord released the word to me last year. And then today I found the answer to it in this book. I never told anybody, and the Lord didn't have me release it. He had me release it this week. But I found the answer when I read the Bible, here, because that was one of the things that I struggled with when I first started walking into my calling. I was looking for somebody to teach me. And when I didn't get that teacher, the Lord said, I'm going to teach you. Yes. I'm going to be your teacher. What better teacher than to have the Father? But that comes from, really, really just saying, you know what, God, because some people think, and I have to say this because I seen a video of somebody this week that, kind of wanted to walk away from their calling and, because of certain mistakes. The Lord said to me in prayer the other morning when I was praying, he said, I don't want you perfect, just clean, not perfect, but clean. Because people have to understand that we're not going to be perfect. No. We're not going to be perfect, but we have to be clean. We do have to be clean, because even when we had a podcast and they were talking about the drinking thing, and I was reading today and I said, I wish I would have read this when it was supposed to, because even what Paul was saying, and where he was giving the advice in what was it, 1 Timothy, for the overseers and the apostles, he said one of the things is to stay away from drunkenness. Yes. You had to. Yes. And he gave different other things that, that they had to follow. And so, it's a part of it. We have to go through the process and to know that the purpose is all for the purpose. Everything that we're going through. And like you said, it's for purpose. Yes. It's for purpose. It's for purpose. But yeah, we listen, because we both can talk all night. I can see it now. So we're going to end it here. We're going to bring you back, though, because I know there's some deeper nuggets, like I said earlier, that you can definitely drop on us, that the Lord has downloaded on you. And I would just hope that this podcast and the podcast in general, but this one today in particular, really help somebody, because that's what I look for, just one person. If one person just says to me, inbox me, that podcast was for me, that's all I want. I don't care. I'm not doing it for the likes, the views, or anything. The Lord gave me something. He chose me to be the vessel. I'm going to be a steward over it, and to make sure that I do it in decency and excellency and in order, in order, not my order, in his order. Because I'm a firm believer. If your order is out of order, what's God's order, you're out of order. So I'm not moving, like that. So I thank you again. I know, because believe it or not, I was raised by my grandmother. My mom passed away when I was 7 months. Yeah, so yeah. And I grew up as a Baptist too. No. Yeah.
Eat the scroll. It's going to go down. It's not sweet. It's going to be bitter, but then it'll become sweet.
Amen.
As long as we suffer to be so, we're going to be good.
Yeah.
We're going to be good.
Yeah. Yes.
I thank God.
Yes. And I thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule and to come on. Because I say this little podcast, people, that they'll give me their yes. Well, give God their yes, because you're not giving me, your yes. You're giving God your yes, because it's truly kingdom business. I stand by that. It's truly kingdom business. So I thank you again. And all right, guys, that's our time for tonight. You were just tuned into the Dope Girlz Podcast. And our guest speaker tonight was Apostle Richard Kent. And we'll see you next time.